Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the case of Frimberger versus Anzellotti. This case was heard in the Connecticut Court of Appeals in the year of 1991. Let's go ahead and jump into the facts of the case. So the plaintiff bought a piece of property from the defendant. The defendant got this property from her brother. Her brother had purchased this large piece of property in Connecticut, and this piece of property was close to some wetlands. What he did was he opened up the wetlands and he brought more of the water onto the property. So it basically increased the wetland area on his property. He did that without consulting the government at all. So he didn't figure out if that was legal or not. Regardless, he then transfers the property to his sister via a quitclaim deed, saying that there's no warranty on the deed. And then the sister holds on to it for about a year, and then she transfers this piece of property to the plaintiff with a deed with a warranty free of all encumbrances. So the question before the court arises when the plaintiff goes to live on the property and he looks into this wetlands area, and he's going to try and do a little bit of work on this area that is the wetland now. So he consults an engineer, and the engineer then consults the DEP, so the Department of Environmental Protection in Connecticut. And the department comes out, they look at it, and they say, hey, this is actually in violation. This wetland that you have here is in violation of a state statute. So you're going to need to change that. While the plaintiff is saying, well, I bought this property with a warranty that it was free of all encumbrances. This is certainly an encumbrance that the property it was violating a statute when I purchased it. So he sues the person that sold it to him and says, hey, you sold me this with a warranty free from all encumbrances. The fact that this property is breaching the statute right now means that it is an encumbrance, and I want to recover from you for that. He wanted to recover the cost that it would take for him to get the property up in line with statutory requirements. So the court has a question before itself of if a property is breaching a statute or a regulation of some type, just in the way that it is situated, can someone convey that property and say that it's free from an encumbrance? The trial court felt that it wasn't, so they ruled in favor of the plaintiff, and they allowed him to recover a little over $45,000, saying that, the fact that the property was breaching a statute when you purchased it means that it was an encumbrance, and you should be able to recover from the defendant for that. So the defendant appeals, and that's where we're at, and the appellate court decides that this statutory breach, the fact that the land was breaching a statute, does not qualify as an encumbrance. They say that an encumbrance might be a lien, so like some mortgage, property taxes, other liens. It also might be an easement, and then finally it could be like if you don't have full title to the property, so say you just have a life estate, or maybe you have you're a joint tenant in the property and you try and convey a good title. That's what they say an encumbrance is. They say an encumbrance isn't when the land is breaching a statute. So the court rules in favor of the defendant and says that, you're free to say that you are conveying a good warranty to the title, free from encumbrances, even if the property is breaching a statute as you sell it. So that's ruling. Some consequences from this. Obviously the court, and they talk about it in their decision, the court was contemplating the additional transaction costs that would come if they required every seller of a property to see if their property was fully in line with all statutes, right? This one might have been kind of obvious. The brother had extended the wetland, but we can think of scenarios where it might not be so obvious that a statute is being breached. Maybe there is like a code that says you can't have a building over 20 feet. There's a tree house, right? That's at 22 or 23 feet. And then when you go to try and renovate that tree house and make it a super tree house, the carpenter comes, he consults the building code department in the city. They say, hey, it's actually illegal. You have to take the whole thing down. And you might want to sue and say, well, it was an encumbrance. But the amount of transaction costs that it would take for a party to undergo a full inspection of the property and make sure there's no breaches of any statutes would increase the transaction costs. That's what the court is thinking about. They didn't want to unsettle people, so they just said encumbrances are, if you have a mortgage, a lien, you got property taxes that you owe. Encumbrance also could be if there's an easement or something like that, or if you don't actually have full title. So they're going to stick to that traditional that traditional view of what an encumbrance is. The downside of this is it does seem unfair. They say that, you know, it might feel unfair to the plaintiff, but he could have contracted out of this at the beginning of the purchase, right? Like in your purchasing contract, you could write, and the seller guarantees that this property is free from all statutory violations. Like this property does not violate any statutes. And that's something simple, quick, that could be added to the contract, and that would get the purchaser out of this hole that they're in. They do say that the purchaser was an attorney, so if that's something they wanted to do, they certainly could have done that. What the consequence of this is going to be is that every contract to purchase a property that, you know, could possibly be violating a statute is going to say something like that, hey, you know, seller is responsible for any statutory violations, and that's what buyers are going to want to purchase their property that way in the future. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.